Hello, Trekkies and Trekkers. Welcome to this amazing Star Trek podcast on Trek Tuesday. I'm your host, Maya Eileen, and I recap every 2 weeks an episode of the Star Trek TNG. Today we recap the episode Alliances. But first, a note of the host of this podcast. I'm looking for a Trek friend who wants and has the time to recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek with me. That also means I have decided to rename the podcast because Ghosting on Track was something from me and Amanda. The podcast will be only available now on YouTube or the Facebook group. If you are interested, please contact me. I would appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. And now for the plot of the episode. Captain Picard, while sleeping in his quarters on the Enterprise after the successful completion of a mission, is abducted by an unknown device. He finds himself in a cell with 2 other prisoners. Starfleet Academy cadet Hero from Belarus 9 and philosopher Kova Troll from Mizar 2. They are later joined by the violent Asok from Chalnot. They have meager beds and facilities, and their only source of nutrition is a dispenser of tasteless rubbery discs. While Asok is unable to eat, he moves toward Toll as fought to eat him. But Picard is able to dissuade Asok temporarily. Picard attempts to learn why the 4 of them have been abducted, but can find no connection. Picard organizes Hero and Asok to attempt to break the lock on the only door to the cell. Initially it's foiled by a stun beam when they tamper with the consoles. They manage to override the beam and then defeat the door security, only to find a blank wall behind it. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, a doppelganger of Picard has taken his place, ordering the ship to delay a scheduled rendezvous with another ship and drive slowly to a nearby pulsar. En route, Picard's double exhibits behavior that the senior crew begins to question, such as his newfound romance for Dr. Crusher, as well as engaging the crew in singing Heart of Oak, the official march of the Royal Navy in 10 Forward. Upon reaching the pulsar, Picard's double orders the ship to be moved closer, potentially exposing the crew to lethal radiation. Commander Riker and the rest of the bridge crew refuse to follow his orders, effectively removing him from command due to his perceived unfitness for duty. After discovering the false door in the cell, the real Picard deducts that Hero is not who she claims to be, as she knows details of a secret Starfleet mission that are unavailable to Academy cadets. Picard observed that the 4 different aliens captive and the tightly controlled setting as suggestive of some kind of experiment. Toll, the collaborator who goes along with whoever is in charge. Asok, typical for his species, a violent anarchist who rejects any kind of authority. Hero, the cadet sworn to obey orders without question, and Picard, a leader, accustomed to giving orders. Hera reveals herself to be not a Bolian, but a member an unidentified alien species. She reverts to her natural form and is joined by a second such alien. The two have been studying the concept of authorities and leadership, as their race lacks hierarchical authorities structures such as human and other races have. Because the collective knowledge of the experiment has now made it impossible to continue collecting data on their natural behavior, the aliens return Picard, Hall, and Asok to their respective original locations. Aboard the Enterprise, Picard's double is also revealed to be of the same alien species, all members of which are in telepathic contact, which the aliens remarks is far superior to the vocal communication used by the beings aboard the Enterprise. When Picard criticized them for engaging in kidnapping and assault, the aliens express ignorance of the morality Picard espouses, and indicate that they will need to study this concept further. However, Picard used a series of non-verbal cues to direct his crew to trap them within a force field, causing the aliens to panic as they are unable to bear captivity. After a few moments, he releases the field and allows them to go free, but wants them not to abduct others again. So I'm going to rewatch this episode. I hope you do too. And then I will be back to recap it. Stay tuned. Don't go away. The first scene is a scene with we see that Captain Picard has been kidnapped. And that he is in a room with 3 other species. And he doesn't know what or whatsoever. The bridge have notified the strange energy that was in his room, and they are investigating it now. I must say by the beginning, this episode is very interesting. And when I read the plot of the episode, I was thinking, I know exactly which one this is. And I don't know if I can tribute more to this recap. I really need somebody to spar with and talk about this episode. So guys, please let me know if you are and if you want to become my partner in crime in this podcast to talk about Star Trek. Because I really, really need a sparring partner to talk about it. It's not really fair for you to have only one person opinion. So, yeah, let me know. There is also a academy cadet, and she looks like a little bit of that Bolian species, and I don't think what I have to make about that, because we know later on that she is a species that is investigating or them do research to different species and how they react. What is kind of a cruel, and it reminds me a bit of when Pike was abducted by the Talions, And so it is very similar to that. The only thing is, this is not a zoo, if I can say it like that. And that reminds me also to that one episode with is that Voyager or was that? No, that was also TOS. They made another, I believe, another episode similar to that in TOS. Not only the pilot with Pike in TOS, but well, it's just like reminding me about of those episodes, and it's just like what I got the feeling was that they were looking of enhance that episode, but also do it a bit different. And if we, of course, look back to Strange New Worlds, when I can't remember her name now, but when she visits Pike back, you can see the relationships it has bonded and what they are doing. And of course, we know that how they call Talesians have they needed Spock because they needed the Spock help. And well, it is just like what I really found of this thing of, I mean, the feeling I got with this episode is that it's very dark and it's very depressed. And I don't know what Gene Roddenberry, I don't know if Gene Roddenberry died already. I think not. Hold on, let me check. Yes. Gene Roddenberry was already, I don't know if he already passed away, but he couldn't work anymore because of his illness, etc. So this would be made by another producer, and I don't know what message they got in there for, or why they made it. The only thing I can think right now is it is like a humanly Q. You know, like in one way they are scientists and they are great in a great mind. But in one way they are like children and they have no clue what they are doing, and they don't have empathy, they don't have feelings of what they're doing to those people that they are in one way observing, in one way pestering in what they do. So it's like those people are like lab rats, you know? When Picard is coming back to the bridge, Riker informs him that the rendezvous with this the Hood is on time, but Picard wants to look at the Lonka cluster. What is weird, because Picard never wants to come late at an appointment and rendezvous, etc. So they already noticed that something wrong is with Picard. The real Picard is talking with his other abductees, and he comes to mind that the abductors have made a big mistake, because they people together that doesn't make any sense. They have no quality together and alone for the captures as a major thing to help improve their lives. So Picard, I don't know, he is very, I think in this episode he's very timid, but also I'm wondering if they, and then, it is a bit weird because the species that adopted them, they, in one way they look very smart, but on the other hand they are not. And they're making mistakes in what they want to observe. And I was also thinking of why do it like this. And I remember that it is, by the way, that was a TOS episode. There was that collector who collects quirky things, and one of the reasons why he had Kirk in his possession, and not only to have it but also to observe it and just see and what his curiosity makes out of it. Well, now I'm thinking of it, TNG has a lot of dark and depressed episodes. You remember that episode with Riker as well, that Riker was adopted as well, and that is a very famous scene because we also have that a whole story arc of but when he was crazy and nuts and finding out that he is somewhere and not somewhere, and then he sorted out that he was his arm was, well, like a robot. They get it off and undo his arm and then reconnect everything. That Psychic episode 1, but there were others as well. And now to counter him, it reminds me a lot of, and I don't know what the writers wanted to say and wanted to tell with this episode and the other episodes. Could this be something of our awareness of mental health problems? And that's what I'm thinking now. It's when I'm thinking of that episode, and we have that episode with Miles O'Brien, that he was like working for Section 31, and it was all in his head, etc. So, yeah, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if they really. So we follow Picard. I mean the fake Picard everywhere on the ship, and then he's being in the sick bay with Beverly Crusher, of course. And Beverly said that everything is normal. She can't find anything. And then Picard asked her to dine with him, and in a more intimate settings. And I think there is a picture around doing the round on Facebook and on the web that is more like a 50 Grey picture. But it is one way a bit weird that Picard is flirting with Beverly, because Well, we see, of course, the later matter that they're getting having Jack, but in the period that Crusher is working on the Enterprise, there's always this, yes, there is something between Picard and Beverly, but also not. And there is a lot of guilt of Jack died under Shono's command, and Jack was his best friend. And so there is this weird and no done feeling about having a relationship with Beverly. And so in this, it's very not common to Picard that he is in really a date with Beverly. So she noticed that as well.
It's imperative.
Meanwhile, the real Picard is getting it into his head to escape. And there is a lost species that has been kidnapped, and it's more like he is very aggressive. And he also reminds me of the old barbarian, old Celtic, old human that doesn't have any law, or just being out there and doesn't have any civil laws or things to keep him in check in a way. So it's really a weird group that they have been kidnapped. Actually, now I'm watching this, that one species, or even the old three abductors, sometimes I have the feeling that they are the abductor themselves, just to be in the room with Picard and see how he reacts. And I must say that although he's taking the lead, he's also very cautious and timid. I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comment below. By the way, I don't think they did a good job with that Starfleet cadet hair, because if she has to be a Boolean, she has other and different hair, and this was more like bluish and grayish. So I don't know, I didn't like it. So then we are in Picard's room, and he has some dinner with Beverly, and they get cozy. But the conversation turns out in that Beverly doesn't want to have a relationship at the moment because everything is okay with her at that. But they remembered back what their decision was, and maybe if that was it. It was Picard who introduced Jack to Beverly, and so that's how they got together. And now he is implying, the fake Picard, of course, now he is implying that maybe they had to be together. But if they were together, they haven't had Wesley. And of course, then there was no reason for the writers and the makers of Star Trek to have a Star Trek Picard series. And we see that they, after 20 years, they have been together and there was a child. Maybe of the one night stand. And the only thing is, they should have been more a bit about that and how they actually meet, etc. And so what I always say, and I don't know what you guys think about this, but I always have found myself Picard and Beverly more a romantic couple than Picard and Fush. And the funny part is, and I don't think I have mentioned it in this episode, I just had listened to Patrick Stewart's audiobook of Make It So, and he had a relationship, an affair with the actress who played Fosh, and I didn't know that, so I was very surprised by that. And so, yeah, I find myself more a Beverly Crusher and Jean-Luc fan as in a couple, like JC. I'm a JC shipper as well. For the one who doesn't know what JC shippers are, those are voting and love to talk about Janeway and Chakotay as a romantic couple. And I must say, I do have written a fanfiction about them when they were, and I can't remember the episode's name now, of the title. There was that they have this virus and they have to survive for a few weeks on this planet while Tuvok went search for a cure. So they could be off like, not like a commander, first commander and or XO and captain, but like just two people, ordinary people, men and women. And there were the strong hints of them becoming a romantic couple. So that's why, that's what we call JC shippers. And well, I am voting for Picard and Crusher in this episode and in the whole TNG era and Picard era. So it's nice to have them eventually together. But this scene was a bit awkward. And because normally Picard would never do that in a way. But of course, later in the seasons, like I think it was in 4, 5, 6, 7, that he became looser as a captain or relaxeder as a captain. And spend more time with his crew also off duty. And I think this is what we a bit see in all of the Starfleet captains. Although I must say Pike and Jonathan Archer are one of the least relaxed one under his command, in the way of, like I said, Pike would cook for his crew. I mean, for his first officers, second officers, and I think that would be, and I think that's why Pike as a captain is so loved. Because he is that relaxed, and you can ask him things, you can tell him things, and with Picard, I always find him a bit too diplomatic, and not only in his job, but also in his with his crew. So, and I can't remember. I had talked about this with a friend of mine, Rune, who is a Dutch Trekkie, and we talked about TNG last weekend about TNG, and he also mentioned it when Picard has to learn how to relax, and after his Borg simulation, there's been a lot in mind, of course, and what he has to go through, so that he is inviting Beverly for a private and personal meal. That is really weird. Although it's not uncommon with him, but it was also, I think this is what the way of the writers to show us that there was something wrong with Picard and that Picard was fake. So now we are back at the in the room with Picard, the real Picard, and all the people are turning against each other. They think one of them is one of the captures, and I don't want to say it's going to be a fight, but it's the stress by being locked up like that is coming out. And what we see is that Picard is strangely calm, and he's not getting occupied with being judgmental. Well, everyone is sitting in 10 forward now, and Picard is acting very strange. And so Troy and Riker and LaForge are really having it with what the hell is going on. So the Enterprise crew is coming together, and they absolutely say there's something wrong with Picard, and his last order was very, it's a dangerous one, because he said they need to fly through this area, but it is too high active, radioactive. So it was a danger for the crew. And everybody is asking themselves, what is going wrong with the captain? What are we doing? Meanwhile, the real Captain Picard is still determined to escape from that room. Riker wants to relieve Picard from his duties, and in a weird situation, Picard turns the roles. So now it looks like that Riker is the one who is acting crazy and being crazy. So Picard ordered him to go to sickbay for a full examination, and if he does not, he will be relieved of duty. So this is another weird thing what's coming out from the fake Picard. So they have to stand up against it to, well, survive. If they really are going to fly in that radioactive energy, then there's no hope for them. So we are back now again by the real Picard, and they just managed to open the door, and they find another wall behind it. So everything what they did was a failure. Now there is something I forgot to mention, and that was in the beginning of this episode. They showed food for the kidnap, and it was like a sort of jelly, but it didn't taste well as it should be. It was not nutrition enough for 3 of them, including Picard, but the bit of a barbarian, it was not food for him, and he could not get his nutrition out of it. And of course it is, what should we do with it, So after that, we are at the bridge of the Enterprise, and Picard is ordering to get the Enterprise closer to the cluster, which means that to all of the crew. And when he told that order, Riker said, well, belay that order. And right away, the fake Picard says, Riker, you're under house arrest, you're confined to your quarters, Mr. Worf, escort him. But I think that was just, it's becoming, I don't know, I think the alien wants to know how far they can go. And it wasn't a great situation for all of them. Riker take over command, and the only thing we see the fake Picard doing is just observing. And it's thanks to Riker, but also, of course, Worf, who stands his ground against the fake Picard. The crew is safe now. So I don't know how Picard know this, but Picard is telling all of them, the real Picard is telling those 3 that he knows that this is a fake holding cell, but this is some kind of a laboratory institute, and he thinks that they are there because the observers want to see how good they are working and thinking under pressure. But he also knows that the Starfleet Academy person is one of the kidnappers. And it's a bit weird because in the whole episode you don't see really where he know about it. I know he listened, and when people were telling us things and observing them and taking the lead. But how does he know exactly that she hears by them? So Picard explained to them what he was thinking, and his assumption was right. And we see then that those aliens who captured them appears, and I must say, maybe this is the pre-concept for the Breen. Or was the origin? It's the origin, by the way, from Voyager. And they say, yeah, we do, and we have replacements for you, and we just want to observe. What makes Picard, of course, annoying and also irritated, because it was not funny. It's against their will. So now the aliens are back on the Enterprise with the real Picard, and Picard has this furious conversation with them about how they treated them, just out of their own curiosity and curiosity how to have leadership. They tell them that they don't have an are a key like that. So they want to learn, they want to study. And meanwhile, Picard is giving Riker subtle hints what the crew had to do, which mean a force field around the two aliens. And I don't want to say punished, but they have to be interrogated how and why. And it is very, I don't want to say weird, but it's definitely interesting to see how Riker and the other crew members know exactly what they need to do by, for example, a nod of the head or a hand signal or whatever. So that also means is that the crew is very, how do you say it? They know each other that well that they can do that. So Captain Picard decided to give them a bit of their own cookie and imprison them and show them what it is to be kidnapped and just being captive. And right away they tell them, oh, you have to leave, let us go because we are going to die in captivity. So Picard is not satisfied with that answer and keep them a little bit longer just to teach them a lesson. So they're going away, meeting up with the Hood, and everything is normal again. Wesley even say, it's good to have you back, sir. And Picard said that the doppelganger was a very convincing one. But Riker said he looks perfect, but he wasn't perfect. And then he told Picard about Picard singing. So Picard was saying, oh dear, I'm looking forward to your report, I think. With the hint of, okay, what did my doppelganger do what I normally not do? And then at the moment Dr. Crusher is coming on the bridge. What is really weird again, because normally she's never on the bridge. You can count on one hand how many times Beverly Crusher actually has a episode on the bridge. And I don't know, it's just like maybe she just want to check because she know that Picard is on board. And that is the stupid thing again. How can she know that Picard, the real Picard, is on board right now? So, and that is also the end of this episode. And I don't know, it's a kind of good episode. And let me check for what the IMDb rating is for you guys. The IMDb rating is a 7.2. I think it's a good figure for good rating for this episode. It's not my favorite. It's not the bad one or not my at least favorite one. But it is a good one to say, yes, okay, I understand. I understand the mission. And, yeah. I think they did a good job with it. I don't know, guys, tell me what you think. And perhaps we have a nice discussion about it. That is everything I like to do with, of course, this podcast. So let me know in the comment section, of course, on YouTube or Facebook. And of course, this is you can find the episode there. And who knows what we can talk about this episode. We do have a nice episode next time. So stay tuned, and I will see you soon. Thank you guys for listening, and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode recap. In the next episode, we will recap the episode Captain's Holiday. And I must say, guys, I have listened to the audiobook of Patrick Stewart, and he talked about this episode with Fosh a lot. And when I didn't know that he had an affair with that actress. So it is nice to see this episode in a new daylight. I also have 2 other podcasts, namely the Maya Eileen Talks podcast, which is some kind of a geek podcast wherein I talk a lot about Star Trek, and the Dutch Ready Room podcast, which is in my native language, Dutch. You can find both on YouTube and Facebook. The Maya Eileen Talks podcast is also to find on Spotify, Anchors, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music. I will see you in 2 weeks. Live long and prosper.